Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday, and welcome
Hello.
to Tabletakes, presented by Gen Con. My name is Christian, and I'm here, as always, with Bonsai, Emma, and Derek, and we are here to tell you the gaming news for the week. Yeah. What have we come across in our searches? Well, you'll find out over the next hour or so. But first, Derek is going to come to us with some show and tell, because you brought a thing, and I want to see the thing.
I did. If you remember from our special episode at Gen Con, I had a box that was one of the few things that I bought at Gen Con that we opened up, realized it was not assembled, so there wasn't a whole lot to look at.
Right.
Let's look at this.
And then we put it back in the box.
I remember how it became crestfallen.
Yep, and then we had to remember to put the instructions back in the box for me. The instructions proved very useful. So what it was is a travel box for Gravwell.
Right.
So this is normal Gravwell.
Normal Gravwell.
Yes.
And this
in a box
is the exciting travel edition of Gravwell. It fits everything basically except the instructions. Do you want to open that?
Oh,
Here we go.
so yeah.
Hey, look at you.
Oh,
First
I
try.
had to practice. It
You
took
did-
us.
you got practice time.
I
Okay.
did.
Yeah, practice time.
None of the rest of us have been able to open.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
There's a trick to it.
yeah. So like I just brought this because it was one of the things we'd bought that I picked up at Gen Con, and it was a broken token kind of travel thing.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see there's just all the it came as all different layers, and I just had to glue it together and assemble it, and now I have a nice little travel edition of Gravwell, which is a very fun game.
Yeah. And once you get into this, you mentioned the instructions not being in there. Like it's pretty easy to learn game.
Yep.
Like once you figure out how everything works, like just do the stuff, take the cards, move your ships back and
It
forth.
feels like it's just like a puzzle box cribbage board.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, I have such wonderful games to show you.
I did. I almost went barbarian on it. I was like, how do you do it?
I like how that first reaction is like, here, Bonsai, check out this cool thing that I made. She's like, don't understand, must destroy. Like,
Which is
but no,
funny,
I
because
made that.
aren't you a woodworker?
Yeah.
So I know how to build things because I destroy things a lot.
A
Yeah.
woodworker or a wood destroyer?
Both.
Yeah, I think we go to your workshop and
Destroyer
there's
of
just a bunch
wood.
of shattered wood
She
everywhere.
both works and fires the wood.
Yes.
I would say the other thing that's really cool about this is I was hanging out with Corey, who's the designer of Gravwell, and he's like, look at this cool thing I made. So not only did he design the game, but he made
sweet.
this. 'Cause
Like he also designed the box for
Yeah,
the game.
he works for, he contracts for Broken Token. So he does like that cool, the tower with all the gears and stuff. He was
nice.
showing pictures of me, like the little dice prison where you can put the dice that have
Yep.
been
The
bad.
bad
and
dice.
then-
Bad dice. You
Dice
don't
shaming
microwave
prison.
them and show.
Yeah,
the
like
other
their
dice.
booth at Gen Con is pretty ridiculous because like they have the kind of like storage space on the back of their booth, the sales counter.
Yeah.
But then all around that they have their modular dice tower that goes from like the floor, like as high as you can reach.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's cool stuff.
Oh yeah.
I'm trying to figure out what game you would use that nearly story high dice
I
tower
think
for.
the game that you would use that for is I'm a nerd and have bought too many dice and I need some sort of use for them, so thus I will buy a dice tower.
That's really big. I actually want to
that-
make one out of plexiglass. Yeah. And then just, it's nice. Don't you like the sound of dice falling down?
Of course I do. I'm a gamer.
And then you can have it hook up to a feeder. And
Like a whole Rube Goldberg machine,
Yeah.
where
It
it's
just keeps
Like a
feeding.
perpetual
The
dice
perpetual.
fountain. This is like what we do.
dice fountain.
What we do with chocolate at weddings.
Yeah, I
Like-
would buy that.
I think
would
I'm
have
gonna
that in
have
my
to
home.
make that now. I'm
Yeah.
gonna
Now
have
I'm
to
just
make a
imagining you
dice.
trying to market that as a gamer white noise machine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm
It
gonna
would
make-
sound like a rain stick, right? Like ting ting ting.
Yeah,
ting,
yeah.
ting, ting, ting.
That's so
Yeah.
bad.
Yeah,
I'm just thinking like
but someone would buy it.
the
I would
dulcet
buy that.
sounds
I
of
would
falling
buy that.
dice as you go to sleep, thinking of
Or just
critical
have
hits.
something in your like corner. This is it's nothing than a fountain, saves water,
Yeah.
and you
and
and-
the constant the dice
and
is
it
like
handy
costs
water-saving
splashing
device.
up for the and then
Yeah.
coming back down.
and then you could recycle.
Why water your
glass.
lawn when you can smother it in dice?
In other news,
In other news, hey, let's get to the actual news, guys. Come
Oh
on.
yes,
Serious show. Everybody got their serious faces on?
serious. You want to know?
Your serious face is a little kissy, I'm not going to lie. All right. Headline number one, Hasbro has acquired an Entertainment One.
Yes.
Which is that's big news.
That is-
Why would Hasbro want to acquire a Canadian entertainment company?
Well, I think for right now, if you've been into like more of the toy building industry now, Hasbro's trying to make a move, now to actually like buy things like, for example, Peppa Pig,
IPs.
all these IPs, so they can make movies to sell more toys.
So
the big grab in this in this was Peppa Pig and PJ Masks.
Actually, there's a hidden surprise
yes,
IP
snuck in
and
there.
worthless surprise.
No, I wouldn't say worthless. I wouldn't say worthless.
I hope is that like in 5 years it turns out that was the real get that Hasbro
Oh man,
got.
wouldn't that be so cool?
So if you guys want to know, the hidden purchase they got with this company is Death Row Records. So
That's right,
I don't know. I like
the former brainchild of Dr. Dre and Suge Knight. Death Row Records basically went out of business in 2006 and was picked up by a small Canadian entertainment company.
Yep.
You know, I really
And
just
it's now part of
hope-
Hasbro.
And is now
It's now
owned by
part of
Hasbro.
Hasbro.
So how long before we're going to see the Snoop Dogg board game?
Yeah,
Honestly,
well,
I want to
crossovers.
get the RPG of Death Row Records.
Yeah.
Is really what I want, or a fantasy version of Death Row Records, where you got Suge Knight as a paladin, and then we also
Hold on, do you know anything about Suge Knight? Because I don't know if Paladin's the way to go on that.
You don't know. You never know.
You
But,
never know. I
the
mean-
Redemption
He's
Paladin.
turning over a new leaf.
turn over a new leaf, and Snoop Dogg could be like a
Bard?
lycanthrope.
Oh, no, they're just all bards.
They're all
Bards, yeah.
bards. They're all
Party
bards.
bards.
They're all bards.
But yeah, no, it
Except
sounds,
50 Cent, who's just a barbarian.
But yeah, so they have these like licensing, and now they're gonna go ahead and probably like make a movie. They're trying to make the move of, you know how before companies used to be like, okay, the movies first, and then they just like license out from the movie.
Well, like that's the ironic thing here is like all the coverage of this has been about how Hasbro is now going to have the capacity to make cartoons, and that no toys come out now without some sort of media tie-in. And it's like, I mean, that sounds like the 80s and the 90s to me.
Yep.
Like all the really big successful toys came from a cartoon, or the
I just
cartoon
want-
came from the toys.
I just want Tupac to sell me G.I. Joes. I think I would be fine with that.
With Peppa the Pig.
With Peppa the Pig.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'd have them. I don't know if I'd have them collaborate just yet.
I think the interesting thing is, like, I'm going to quote from the CEO, Brian Goldner, that he said is, in addition, Hasbro will be leveraging Entertainment One, immersive entertainment capabilities to bring our portfolio of brands that appeal to gamers. And fans and families to all screen globally and such. But the big thing is that they are marketing this, they're making this move to make something for gamers.
Well, I'm very curious how he would define gamers in that sentence.
I guess.
Because it doesn't seem like Entertainment One has like a gamer history.
No.
So I don't think they acquired them for. I mean, I suspect that it was a two-pronged thing. They wanted those IPs. They wanted Peppa Pig.
Yeah.
But I would not be surprised if the large motivation was to get people who had the capacity and experience with making media tie-ins for their products, so that either they can have Entertainment One produce YouTube or TV or cartoons or something for the other gamer IPs they have, or they just wanted an entertainment company that had the experience with working with Hollywood to do those things well for Hasbro's benefit, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. And you're talking about Hollywood, because we mentioned before the show, YouTube. Like, I've seen these children with their YouTube. That is what they do. Just hours. Like, here's
These
the phone.
kids with
like,
their
just-
YouTube and their hair.
YouTube and their hair. They just watch the young kids, like 4 or 5, 6 years old, just like consuming this content.
Yeah.
And that they watch the Shopkins.
You also
YouTube
see these
videos.
same 4-year-olds with like a magazine looking at it and trying
Oh,
to
like
swipe.
try to
You're
swipe.
like,
I've seen that.
Yeah.
This is a problem.
Well, this is what's selling them, and the toys, like the toys have YouTube videos for the Shopkins. They have the YouTube videos, and it's just like all going back and forth. But YouTube is where the kids are specifically.
Yeah.
So to make more of that YouTube content, and then I guess make a movie. So like, do kids even go to the movies anymore?
Yeah, I
Kids
mean,
do
did you
movies?
not see Dora
I
the
don't
Explorer
see
like getting
movies that
really
kids
high
can go
reviews
to.
in theaters
Yeah.
right now? Yeah, a lot of kids' movies are getting higher ratings in like basically for movies nowadays.
Yeah.
Versus
Yeah.
like the ones that are more geared to
Well, I mean, like,
adults.
if you think about it, I think a lot of the niche movies over the past, say, 10 years or so, they've stopped completely sucking, I think. So, like,
Yeah.
even kids' movies, genre movies, like superhero movies have had a huge boom, but I
Yeah.
think
Yes.
you can kind of extend that out to a lot of other niche movies that used to just be tie-ins. It's kind of like how licensed video games, licensed board games in particular.
Have we had a good licensed video game movie yet?
Not yet.
You're not allowed to say Warcraft.
Warcraft.
No.
Great movie. You should go see it.
No, I don't think either of those statements are true.
I like how we all use it.
No.
No.
I am deeply suspicious.
I don't.
But either way, what I'm trying to say is that I think that the basement level has been raised.
Yeah.
Yes.
So like some of them are still bad.
Yeah.
The bottom of the barrel is slightly higher now.
But like, and I think in a lot of cases, most of these movies just aren't terrible anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I think just the standards have been raised kind of across
A lot
the
of that
board.
comes from the fact that movies are easier to make than they used to be.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now that we've gotten rid of film in general, movies are easier to make
Yeah. Yeah.
or to make look good.
Yeah, one Tarzan chat points out that maybe all the crappy movies aren't in theaters now; they're just on Amazon and Netflix directly. So I mean,
Wait,
I
that's
guess
where all my movies go, Derek.
I didn't say it. I'm just passing this along.
I don't know, but if you watch some of these things. I watched a Tinkerbell movie on the plane because I saw the person next to me watching it, and
And you're like,
it
I want to
was-
inflict that on myself.
Yeah, it was good. It was emotional. The songs were great. I still have it on my playlist of songs that I listen to.
Yeah, I mean, I think so, like from the 80s and 90s, there was that direct-to-video market.
Yeah.
That is now basically just direct-to-streaming market.
Yeah. Well, also with the consumption of content, right? Like I'm saying, these kids starting at 4, 5, 6 years old watching so much content, you know, there has to be like, well,
So
they're
do kids not do the thing where they just watch The Little Mermaid 27 times a day
Oh, they do
anymore?
that. They still do that.
You can still do that, yeah.
Yeah.
But now they're
Like,
watching Moana.
That's always
Well, yeah, no,
my
you know
question
what I
of
mean.
like
Yeah.
kids these days with their YouTube and their 12 hours a day on the YouTube, and I'm like, they did 12 hours a day before. It was
On the
just
VHS.
they just ran out the VHS and you had to buy a new one.
Yeah. It's all.
Now that we pay money for internet. So there you go. There's the big news.
Yeah.
Hasbro now owns
Pep
more
and
stuff,
more stuff.
and also Death Row
Death
Records.
Records.
So maybe we can see.
They're gonna probably be a 500 chance of Death Row record monopoly.
I want to see a Death Row MMO.
So are we just speculating now what ridiculous
Yes.
thing we
So,
want Hasbro to
by
make that they
yes.
never will make?
No,
let's see.
no. We're telling them now so they get these ideas.
So that we get the sure,
Get the
absolutely.
royalties.
So we get the real. It's digital royalties.
The real money, you understand, the real money is going to be in magic cards.
Oh.
So like
Oh.
we want the Snoop magic card. I mean,
Yeah.
The Snoop magic.
like he's clearly a planeswalker, right?
Yeah. Oh, my
Green,
gosh.
clearly green.
Clearly green Planeswalker. Yeah.
You would probably be really down for that.
I mean,
Yeah.
he could be.
He probably would.
He could also go with the Swamp Thing just because Death Row Records.
Sure.
you know.
Yeah.
no, it's
Just possibilities.
possibility.
Anything else happening with Hasbro that we need to know about right this second?
No.
Probably not. Stay tuned. There will be more ridiculous speculation to come here on Tabletakes. Things happened this week.
Yes.
Yeah.
New movie came out. Everybody heard about this? Secrets of Blackmore.
Oh.
Once again, rehashing the age-old battle for a new generation of gaming fans.
Well, yeah, I mean, like once again for us because we're aware. But Emma, this was the first time
Yeah,
that you'd heard
and-
a lot
Well,
about
so for
this.
those of you who don't know,
And this is your story.
Secrets of Blackmore is the movie is the documentary about the history of Dungeons and Dragons. You know, there's a lot of people, most people probably who play the game, there's millions of people who play the game, don't know where it comes from, don't necessarily care where it comes from. You know, it's just like, well, I play the game, it just popped
That's not what the internet tells me. The internet tells me that the history is super important.
It popped into existence one day. Well, what really interested me about this as a game designer and as someone who just loves to hear stories about things is you look at the history of how different games came about. Wargaming, for example, you know, it was literally generals like in the 1800s. They're like, oh, what if you see the people pushing the things on the map and they made a game out of that, right? They're like, well, my armies come over here and yours come over here, and they did simulations. It was educational, and then it became fun. People would play these things in their parlors, so that all makes sense. But
Their parlors. When they had
parlors.
parlors.
The parlor games. So Dungeons and Dragons and role-playing came out of these war games, but what's really cool is there was a moment, right? So like, you think of these games, if you've seen this, very tactical, you have your armies, you're shooting things, and all of a sudden you have we're wizards and warriors, and we're fighting dragons and fantasy creatures. It's like, that's quite an innovative leap to go through. So like, how this happened is a very fascinating story, and turns out a very
and then
contentious
how that leapt
story.
from battles and armies and generals to I'm just this one character.
Yes, and it did go like they had they had their armies, and you're fighting these different things, and then you got smaller, so you were simulating a town, and it got even smaller, so you're simulating a character, like putting all of your hopes and dreams instead of to your armies. I don't really care too much how much like everyone lives and dies, but then this is a character. This is me in a way. This is my avatar.
The story that I think most people are familiar with is how D&D just burst fully formed from the brow of Gygax.
Yes, yeah. So both the documentary is just like, and here's Dungeons and
Like
Dragons.
he's Zeus.
Yeah. So this documentary and also a Kotaku article that came out just at the same time. And are we posting the links for those?
The
links are in there. So there's a documentary, but if you read through the article, you can get a lot of this content as well. At least get a little
It's
bit
like
of the background.
whole gist of the movie.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the Cliff's Notes, if you will. So there was, as with many things like this, like it's such a big innovation. There was a group of people. There's a genius cluster of these kids and young people gaming in basements and going back and forth. And they had newsletters, and they were talking about all the things that they were doing. So there was a lot of foment at this time. People having ideas, people trying new things. And there was this guy, Dave Arneson, who was the leader of one of these groups. And so the Chainmail was a wargaming rule set that Gary Gygax did. Dave Arneson saw this rule set and played around with it, and really, according to the sources, had this aha moment where he sat down in his group and said, okay, now this is what we're gonna do. You know, you're gonna be this person. It's like you walk into the seminal moment, right? Like we've all had before. You walk into the tavern, dwarf jumps up on the table and starts yelling about ogres. What do you do? Like that.
Well,
what do you do?
there was a really neat kind of anecdote about how I think David Kuntz, was talking about how they had played one of these things and Gygax had taken Arneson's notes home and was just pouring over them.
Yeah.
And then the two of them weren't quite getting the vision that Arneson had yet, or just this idea, until they just sat down and just for hours just played through just one GM and one player, like multiple sessions, and they were like that's what it is. Like they had taken the step from, okay, I command my troops to go here, to I'm just going to role play however I want.
Yeah.
Even the chainmail relation on this is it's contested.
Yeah.
You know, Arneson maintained for years that it didn't come from chainmail. He just told Gygax it's like chainmail, and that's where the whole argument even started. Because in fact, Dunstons Dragons is nothing like chainmail.
Yeah.
Never has. Each figure you had in chainmail represented, 20 members of your army.
Right.
And
So the contentious part is, so there's these multiple people working on this, and as the details unfold, Dave Arneson, the aha moment of the role-playing, Gary Gygax, and Kuntz as well, did a lot of the productization. So what Gary did for this was make it a thing that people could buy. And in game design, like both of those are very important. Like somebody can have great ideas and be in their basement playing it, but will never go beyond that. Especially if you have all your house rules, don't know how to market it.
There's you have to come up with the idea.
Yeah.
You have to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
But you also have to figure out how to communicate it so other people can do it.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then you have to figure out how to make that a successful product.
Yeah.
So you can continue to do that in the future.
Right.
Like
So you
those
can
are
dedicate
all
your time,
important
build
things.
it out. Yeah.
Yeah.
The issue here is that Dave Arneson really got written out.
Yes.
Of like very soon after the creation, his name was removed, and through the history, like people know about Gary Gygax, but they don't know about Dave Arneson as much. And I think that no matter who, both sides are important, but no one should have their legacy erased for their contribution to such a important thing that's touched so many lives.
So there's a lot of documentaries that are about this time.
Yeah.
Because shockingly enough, gamers feel real passionate about D&D.
Yeah.
Yes.
Gamers feel real passionate about history. So a lot of these things kind of go together, and there's been a number of documentaries. Oddly enough, I think some of them have had their own art imitating life moments of the creators then splitting off of their own, and then both of them going and making their own documentaries.
yeah. It's
Anyway.
weird how often that happens.
Yep.
And I think the thing is, and we talked about this before the show, that there's an object lesson in all of this. Like,
Yes.
frankly, this documentary existing, it was going to happen again.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it's such an interesting story. It's like, it's Apple, it's
Yeah.
Microsoft.
Well,
Yes.
and it's one that, like, especially
It's the
now,
Beatles. It's-
especially
Yeah.
now with 5th
Edison.
edition being so big, there's just so many more people who are in the hobby now who have never encountered this history before.
Yeah.
Plus, there's a lot of just angry old guys who were there that want to tell their story.
Yep.
Yes.
A key component to any
Yeah,
any
and
living
in this
history.
story, there is really a lot of angry old dudes
Yeah.
who want to tell you how it really went down.
What this really tells you is contracts.
Right, if you're going to make something with your friends and sell it to people,
And-
make sure you have the contracts in place. Otherwise, you're going to lose friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trust me, I know these things. I make movies with my friends
And you have contracts.
every
Yeah.
single time.
Yep.
Contracts. But yeah, this is more. I feel like this, in terms of my perspective of it, it's like a Steve Jobs versus Steve
Wozniak.
Wozniak. Like
Yep.
you know.
Yeah, like it's Steve Jobs, Steve Wozniak, Edison and Tesla. Like it's almost like throughout history, there have been people who have been friends or colleagues or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've worked on a really kind of key element of our society.
Look at the
and
history of
then-
television.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then history remembers one of them.
Yeah, well, it turns out the person who's good at branding and productization and selling things tends to be
Usually,
the one who gets
that's
their
the guy who
face on
usually
things
wins.
because they're good at that.
Capitalism.
Yeah.
I think also if you look Ready Player One, if you read it, it kind of has a similar plot story to this. Yeah. Okay, I'm not a nerd. You're a nerd.
You're a nerd.
You're a nerd. We're all
You're a
nerds.
nerd.
Okay,
Okay.
fine.
But you should check it out. I think it's
It's
good to know the history of the things that you're involved in, and just to be able to speak to that. If it does come up in conversations, and you can know, who should have credit for the things that you love.
So what does this movie do that different than these other documentaries have done? Is it really playing on the idea that Gygax was the bad guy in this situation, or?
I think it's surfacing a little bit more because there's like a ton of documents. It's trying to dig a little deeper, and I think some of the previous ones have maybe been a little more fan service. Like this is focusing on like the legend as opposed to more digging into is like doing more interviews. Getting more data.
Like I said, interviews with these angry old people have been a major part of all of these things.
Well, like
Yeah.
Blackmore was Arneson's baby.
yes.
Yeah.
So it really feels like this is leaning on the Arneson side
Yeah.
of the story.
All right. Well, as long as we all remember, there are two sides to every story. And in
Yes.
this case, there were about 20 sides.
Yeah.
Yep.
One
Absolutely.
for each facing of the die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Just watch
for those of you who have seen this story 1,000 times, maybe check it out.
yeah.
There's still some interesting things to be found. For those of you just getting into gaming, this is a nice way to have one of your heroes die almost immediately.
Yep.
There's a whole lot of drama for you to discover.
Drama.
But at the same time, long live Gygax. So,
But yeah.
yeah, I said it. Oh, they're all mad now.
There.
All right, so what else do we got going on? Well, I like D&D.
You do.
And I
You
like
do?
the fun parts of D&D.
All the fun parts.
Yeah.
D&D.
The parts where there aren't creators at each other's throats.
What about the
even
co-parts?
many years after their deaths? What?
What about the co-parts?
Oh, no, I like those parts too.
Okay, good.
Good.
D&D.
I
Yeah, D&D is, excuse me.
get it.
I get it.
See?
I get it.
Funko Pops now have a D&D flavor. There you go.
Yay.
There is a whole Baldur's Gate set of D&D Funko Pops. They're adorable. They're,
Boo.
there's
Wait, a
Miskin Boo.
Funko Pop is adorable?
I know.
Really?
That
They've
was,
cracked that code?
that was like saying water is wet. I apologize.
So are these the first Dungeons and Dragons Funko?
I think they're the
so.
first
So-
official
Wow.
Dungeons
Official.
and Dragons.
Yeah,
I mean they've
because
had.
they've had Magic the Gathering ones for a while.
Oh,
Yeah.
for all
we
the
know.
Planeswalkers.
Hear all about it.
Yes.
The Magic
Yeah.
players and all their money.
them magic
Well,
players.
it just
Some
seems
Magic player money.
surprising that it took this long, I guess, to work out that
Well,
deal.
Magic was much more popular than Dungeons and Dragons until just a couple years ago,
That's fair.
and now it's still
Yeah.
much more popular than Dungeons and Dragons.
but slightly less more popular.
But slightly
Yeah,
less,
that's
much more
Much
popular.
more.
News.
So, what are they?
What are they? That's a great question. Is there a Miskin Boo, which that was my favorite thing. Played Baldur's Gate when I was a kid, and Minsk was my favorite character.
Boo is
I
a
had-
hamster?
Yep.
The
He's
space
a
hamster.
giant, he's a miniature giant
giant
space
space
hamster.
hamster.
I know
Okay.
that part. I've never played the games, but
I didn't even play the game the first time. I just watched my friend play it and made him play all of the sound bites from Minsk over and over again because they were
the-
They have
hilarious.
comic
the key
books
things you need
too,
to know
right?
are miniature giant space hamster, go for the eyes boo,
Squeaky wheel gets
Go
the
for
kick.
squeaky wheel gets the. Okay, so apparently, like you get the Cliff Notes version now.
Yeah.
You're up to speed.
Got
Yes.
it.
There you go. He's a big ranger with a tiny space hamster, and he,
Yeah.
and he beats
He's
up
got like
evil.
a weird purple blue tattoo thing too.
Yeah, well, you know,
Beats
forgotten
up
names.
evil. Yeah.
Yeah, beats up evil, just like all Dungeons and Dragons heroes. He beats up evil. So there's Miskin Boo, which is the one that I really looked at. The Mind Flayer is so cute. Like I want it to suck out my brains.
There.
And of course, because we are dealing with the whole Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, it's they're going to be Asmodeus, who is big scary devil guy.
Asmodeus, Asmodeus.
Yes,
Yes.
rock me Asmodeus.
That's wrong, man.
That's adorable. Anyway, so these are going to be available, and they're like this big, and they have big giant heads and little black eyes, and there you go. Funko Pops,
Yeah.
D&D, they're happening. Moving
it.
on.
Yes.
Well, no, let's go back.
Okay.
So this is first set of Funko Pops for D&D.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Random question: what do you want in the third set of Funko Pops for D&D?
The third.
Yep, I'm just.
specifically.
Yep, I'm
This
gonna
is the
say-
first one. We want
Yep.
to in the third
I'm,
one.
I'm just throwing you what I'm going to pretend is a clever question.
Okay. Well, in the second set.
Owlbears.
Owlbears? You don't think that's second?
That could be.
Ooh.
See?
Yeah.
See?
Yeah. No, I mean we're gonna see a goblin in the second set for sure.
Yeah.
Probably a Dritz Warden.
Cold
Oh yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it kinda has
How
to
do
be
you get
there.
away from Elminster?
Yeah.
Familiars. What,
You
or
just- you
characters
just
with
want
familiars.
You just want.
You just want a cat.
You just want.
Just say you want a cat. Just say it.
Well, if you want a cat,
Yeah.
then what's the? I can't. Gosh darn it! It starts with a D. They're purple cats with tentacles.
Displacer
Displacer
beasts.
beasts.
Displacers. There
Yep,
you go.
Displacer beasts. Yep,
Not
that's a
really
good
so
one.
much a Forgotten Realms thing. It's just a general D&D
Well, I
proprietary.
thought that's what you were asking. What D and D?
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
that's what
Yeah,
I'm saying. Like, what should be there? Yeah,
Displacer
Displacer beast. Yep.
Yeah.
One tar in chat says Beholder.
The Beholder also a
Nelly
proprietary
says,
D&D.
Nelly says Modrons. I'm gonna say Modrons won't be until like set 5 or 6.
Phew, yeah. Yeah, but they're a little
But they're
lesser.
real adorable.
Of course they are. They're the cutest.
I feel like if you're doing the next set, it'll have to be kobolds because like that's just something you encounter early.
Yeah, kobolds,
Kobolds.
giant rats.
Yeah.
That's probably not going to be very
Skeleton.
Oh,
popular.
like a Funko of a swarm of cranium rats. I'd be on that.
Ugh.
That's probably set 12.
Yeah, that's
I
when
feel like
we
we're
get
already
into
doing
the-
deep cuts
Yeah.
here.
Yeah, that's when we get like Curse of Strahd stuff going on. It was like, oh, the mist. Oh, that's a really.
Gelatinous
Is this an empty
cube.
box?
Oh,
Gelatinous
that's
cube.
so gelatinous
That-
cube.
good pick.
That one's a good one.
Like, how are they gonna funk that?
Well,
What's
wait.
the verb for funkifying? Funkifying?
I think you just came up with it just
You're-
now.
How are you gonna funk
I'm
that?
using that.
Funk TM. How do you funk TM that?
Funked.
Too many syllables.
All right.
Yeah.
We can
Alright.
we can move on now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can we? Are you
Now-
sure?
Yep.
Now we've done the sidebar.
All right. Hasbro, have you no end?
Never.
No.
No end.
Yeah.
But are they doing anything interesting
They-
with that other game that is wildly popular?
Yes, they are talking about it. Mark Rosewater specifically, state of design, like the State of the Union, the end all and be all, Cliff's Notes. Everything is great except for the things that aren't quite as great, but those are still really not that bad. So mostly everything is great.
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 I have no idea what you just said.
So the state of design, Mark Rosewater is amazing with just the amount.
Who is Mark Rosewater?
The head designer for head game designer
Looking out
for
for you guys.
Magic the Gathering.
Magic.
He was also on an episode of Fireside with Peter,
Yes. Yeah.
which is in our YouTube channel.
Yes.
People want to
Definitely
see
go
that,
and check
discussion with
that
him.
out
out.
because just the knowledge. He's been there for so long. He's been doing these state of the
typing it up.
designs
I know, I saw
for 15 years. Like this is the 15th or 16th one. So
That was the really weird thing of like going to the State of the Design article.
Yeah.
And I'm like, am I on the wrong page? Because you scroll past, he's like, first, like
Yeah.
it looked like it was an old school directory
Yes.
on a website where you would go like, here's the site map,
Links,
and it was
yeah.
just like 2004, and I'm like, what?
Yeah.
I'm here for this year.
which is cool because you can go and read this one absolutely, but then you can look back and see just the breakdown.
See how he
for-
contradicts himself almost every year.
the in-depthness, and he's just so happy to put out content. He's got his Drive to Work podcast, always doing these posts on the Magic the Gathering blogs.
Just getting the Rosewater brand out there.
Yeah.
I feel like he's a Magic nerd.
Yes, a little bit.
Maybe.
Yeah, he cares a lot about just talking all the time about his thoughts. So what was in the state of design?
I'm not inviting him for dinner.
The people.
That's just not. You just totally killed that possibility.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to hear about
Oh,
magic?
you love this guy. He never shuts up.
Just tell him to save it for his podcast.
Yeah. Save it for the podcast. But just hearing from such a perspective, I mean, the fact that game designers care about their games, but the fact that someone wants to take the time, nerd out as much, like we were talking about the players, who know, nerd out as much as the nerdiest of the nerds about what they really care about. I mean, this is a large part of what keeps Magic so top of the list. This is why people care about it.
We can't
because
say
the
fresh
designers
because it's Magic.
care about it.
Fresh and new.
Yeah. Anyways, let's get into it. So there's not too much to cover here again, because if there was more drama or more problems, it would be easier. Like, oh, this is what sucks. But everything's going pretty well. So the
We can always
complexity
complain.
level.
We can always go back
We
to
could always
complaining about the referees.
We are so nerds. Like everything's great. There's nothing to talk about here. Whatever. I'm bored. But when something's going wrong,
Oh, we are
on
over
it.
that.
We're rage.
Yeah, we'll still talk about it.
You know,
So-
they're getting rid of green mana. That's what I heard.
I only
Oh,
want
that's
to talk
not
about
true.
this thing when I hate it.
That's not true.
I
Not true
No,
at
they're
all.
not
No.
true.
It's
Green
red.
still here.
They're getting rid of red.
Can I talk about what's in this list?
Sure.
Everyone, Peanut Gallery. Can we- Mark Rosewater is happy with the level of complexity with where Magic is at right now. So for a little while, got a little too much, and then came back down. But for this year, for the last year, it's been in a good place complexity-wise. Especially a lot of that has come from putting the complexity into the uncommon cards. So for those who don't play, commons are usually easy. You know, you got a lot of bland, boring creatures potentially.
No, that's white. I think
That's-
you're mixing
yeah,
up common
common
with
and
white.
white, right? There's good stuff in every slice of the
much
pie has its own thing.
I love that you can defend every aspect of this game.
Well, you can't just hate on one. There's something for everybody.
It's part of my
the whole
brand. I'm
point.
sorry.
Yeah,
I'm
that's just 'cause
contractually obligated to
you're
hate
on
white.
the opposite side of the color wheel. I understand that.
You gotta go red. Aggro.
Yes,
aggro,
yes,
aggro.
yes, yes.
Red is permitted.
So yeah, so we had
Only red.
we had Ravengard Legions, we had War of the Spark, we had the Planeswalkers, especially at uncommon level. So a creature, or not a creature, with a Planeswalker, a being with a static ability, with minus abilities, like just so much packed into these sets. And I think one of the biggest things that, again, with Mark Rosewater being so present, answering so many questions, going to places like Comic-Con, is they're having two-way communication with the player base. And that's how they are able to tune. They're game designers who listen
To their players.
To the players. How crazy is
so
that?
I think that's how Magic has kept players so invested in Magic through the years. It's not just
Yeah.
the fact that the game is solid and people play it, and it's a thing you can play with everybody.
Yeah.
Because we have those games, and like people play them, but they don't they're not into them. And I think part of the reason why people are so into it is when you have designers like Rosewater spending so much time talking about the design, it makes it clear to the people who are playing it that there is enough design there to talk about.
Yes.
And then there's enough design there to invest yourself in.
Yeah, and it's not going anywhere.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So it's things like they're listening to the community. Like the community is really into changelings, slivers, surprise, ninjas, and snow. It's like this is what the people want. You know, they know the language. Like people want more ninjas.
And they want more
Not a-
slivers.
Yeah,
Sliver
slivers.
ninjas.
Sliver.
Slinges.
Yeah, sliver ninjas. That's
Slim ninjas.
Slinges.
Slinges.
Yeah. Hopefully you're watching this, Mark, because we're coming up
Livers.
with
Because
new
gold.
on the fly.
Yep, gold.
Yep.
So it's like surprising no one, ninjas, right?
Sliver
The
snow
kind of
ninjas.
thing. Sliver snow ninjas, cold ninjas, parka, ninjas with parkas.
I just
Anyway.
Yeah. So they're talking about, people are talking about what they want. People talk about what they want all the time, too much, but they're actually listening and integrating these things into, and they've done a really good job about this, and people have responded really well to this. Playing around with the design, with the frames, behind the scenes, the tech of how you put together a pack turns out is really complicated, but they're willing to play around with that. And like we've seen with the new products that are coming out, try new things. Some of the things that are problems, though, for everyone out there waiting for the drama.
Yes.
Ooh.
That's why I'm here.
So they can potentially do a little better with synergy and pacing between sets. There you go. Are you happy now?
Sure. Let's dig into that. Well, so like the interesting thing on that I felt was like a lot of it was, it seems like the Magic team is really, really good at producing the set.
Yes.
And like the set is very well crafted. It's polished when it comes out. But it sounds like Rosewater wants to improve the handling between sets.
Yeah.
Both in terms of like how do the two sets interact, how do we kind of draw the player from one to the other, but also how, both in terms of mechanics with the synergies, but also in terms of time, as in how frequently should they come out?
Yeah.
Like how long do we need to let a set just kind of be for people to play with it before we release a new one? How long is too long? Like those are questions that I think are really interesting because they require a very different skill set or insight than designing an individual set might be.
This is designing a meta, and not meta being, whatever card types or tribals are popular right now, but this is the meta of cards released, scheduling, the universe, thematic and mechanical that these are being released into. And even seeing things like, all those things came out, it's like, oh, it's a core set, and then Throne of Eldraine, and then Modern Horizons, and all these different things coming out at the same time. It's like, well, they're not really necessarily the same target audience, but it's like, well, maybe there is some overlap, or maybe they can see this, or maybe people do care about both of the things, and it's a lot of stuff coming out at the same time.
Quick question, what are the major target audiences in the Magic playing community? Like how many target audiences are there for Magic players?
There's a lot. So there's like the limited people, like the people who just want to get in, do a draft, do sealed. There's people playing the older formats. People are playing modern. People are playing legacy. People are playing vintage. There's people who just want to play standard. There's people who are just getting into it.
And those are all specific different groups that don't bleed over into the other ones?
Yeah, well, they do, and they are more and more, which is really interesting. So for Modern Horizons, for example, the way it was framed, and he did have a little bit of an issue with the way that it was framed, because like, oh, this is just going to be for people who like modern. But with so much cool stuff in there, the limited environment, like that was something that they did want to push and didn't come out as much. Like people who love limited, like me, for example, were a little intimidated by modern. They're like, wow,
which one's limited?
Yeah, I was about to say, do you want to take a moment and explain limited and modern?
What's limited? Yeah.
Limited is you don't need anything. Since you show up, you get packs, you play, you get to keep what you bought, and you can really come into it.
So this is specifically for events?
Yes.
Yes, well, you can do it at your home. You can do it with your friends. You can just like grab a bunch of packs and do a draft with friends, or you can go to a store.
But I think the key is like limited is
it's
like,
a particular style of play that appeals to one type of player.
Like limited is this set. Not bring any Magic card. It's this set. Here's some cards. Build a thing.
So it's whatever the most current is.
Or I mean, theoretically, you could pick an older set. I think.
Yeah. I mean, if you have the right box, you could do an Ice Age limited.
Yeah.
Sure.
Or like at events at the in Las Vegas, they were doing like history of drafts. So they're going back and bringing old sets. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you can do. But what's really compelling for it is you don't need to have that $1,000 deck. You don't need to have that $200 deck. It's even playing field.
You also don't need to have the knowledge of that, because there's like, even if you don't bring that deck, you know, if you're going to play in a completely open format that has all cards from ever, you need to be able to respond to those crazy combos. So whereas limited is much narrower.
Right. So there's groups of players that just play limited.
Yeah.
And then there's groups of characters that just play modern.
Yeah.
And which one is modern? Is that just whatever the current set is, or is that?
That's older than standard, going back about 15 years.
So standard is what's the current set.
Yes.
And there's a whole
standard's
group
like the last 2 years.
And there's a whole group of just standard players. Like I only
Yeah.
play standard.
Yeah.
And then there's a whole group of modern players that only play modern.
Yeah.
And then there's the limited players who are a separate group from that, who don't play modern or standard but play limited.
Yeah.
And then so we've got 3 separate target audiences for one game.
And then
right
there's
now.
people who collect, who like the art.
Now I haven't heard
and
about
the-
these people.
Oh yeah, that's the ones that the shiny decks are for.
Oh, I know.
And I think there's also just completely casual people who play Magic
kitchen
and love
table.
Magic,
Yeah, just like,
and
whatever,
literally
bring
have
your
no idea what
cards.
we just talked about.
Yeah.
You know, they're called kids. We can call them.
No, I mean,
Kids these days with their YouTube and their Magic.
well, there is probably just going to be also this newer market for Magic, for the digital market.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's the digital players that get different cards as well. I mean, there are a lot of them are the same.
But the Magic Magic Arena is starting to do
Yeah.
set rotations and stuff like that. So
Yeah,
those audiences are going to grow there too.
They have, there is standard on Arena. There's limited on Arena. So all these things are represented digitally, but there's a very different play experience from the digital one to the paper one. So there is some division there. But talking about them being separate groups, they are separate, but there's a ton of fluidity. Like a lot of niches are just like, I like my thing, I don't want to go over in your thing, I hate your thing, but like for me, I've played more, and the way that Magic is doing it, it encourages that. So like people pick up other things. I started playing Commander because like people were doing that. I moved into Commander, and you go back and forth.
Commander seems to be an entry point for a lot of people because it's very specific. And it's very thematic.
Yeah.
And I want to say like maybe a little swingy, so that like you can have these really highs that just kind of happen because of the random cards you end up putting.
Yeah, it's where you go from kitchen table Magic when you care a little bit more about it. Like you don't want to have pure chaos. You want to still do good, interesting stuff. But you can do your weird stuff that you can't do in other. I made a horses deck, a horse tribal deck with life gain, and I had this crazy engine going where I would gain life every turn. I would make more horses, and then I would make some bats, and they were all swinging in.
So this is just like Horse Ranch Simulator, the Magic deck?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Horse Ranch Stampede Simulator.
All about the horses and the panda decks.
Yeah.
The panda decks.
Anyways.
You said Panda decks?
Yep, I heard that too. Don't worry about it.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What?
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 Yep.
What?
So,
Panda
Magic.
decks. Yes. I could go on about
I
this
not
for a long
counts.
time, but it's just for Mark to like. Mark is pretty honest, you know. He probably wouldn't hate on things, but if things were not going great, like he'll say the things that are going well and going poorly, and things are going pretty well right now from a design perspective. So there you have it.
The other thing that I thought was very interesting is how you said listening to the feedback.
Yes.
And I wanted to touch on that real quick before we move on to the next topic,
Yeah.
because I think that is so cool. The
Yeah.
way that they not that the way that they do that, but the way that they have to do that.
Yeah.
You know, that they really do have to listen to their players every time they put out a new set.
Yeah.
More than any other game, pretty much anywhere has to do.
Yeah. I mean,
you know, like World of Warcraft has all these players that are always giving feedback to their mods, but they don't really institute any of that. They just get mad when the updates happen.
right.
Yeah.
Right. Well,
Whereas with Magic, they do listen
Yeah.
and react every time because the players know as much about the game as the designers do at this point.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
the game has been around so long.
Well, I also think that an analog game is different because you don't have the same data that a
course.
video game has.
Yeah.
And that as a player, an analog game, by its requirement of operation, you can have a greater degree of insight into
Absolutely.
how you think it should
Yeah,
be.
the video
run.
game was a bad.
Well, no, but like it's a good example. Like it's like
I should
like,
be shot.
the interesting thing about the point of them listening to the players, though, is the things that Mark Rosewater brought up that are concerns or areas of improvement are areas where they are really going to have to lean into communicating with players. Because it's how do you synergize sets? How often do you pace sets? How do you release the sets in a way that works for the community?
Yeah.
And the community is going to be the ones who know how to answer that.
yeah.
The problem is they have so many different opinions in communities as opposed to when there's one person.
Yeah.
That one person only has that one opinion, but this community of several million people who are all very vocal have very different ideas depending maybe on what type of Magic that they're playing.
Yeah, well, you're bringing up video games, and it can be very scary, the feedback. You look at a game like League of Legends, buffing and nerfing, like you get rage every time you adjust those things, even though it's for the health of the game. And Magic is potentially moving into this territory. Now with their digital element, like having a digital product, like you could see they're in a golden age, really, where people are still mad, of course. Every time everything comes out,
My wife plays a lot of Overwatch, so I see like all the kerfuffle that goes on with that. Like anytime they put out a new patch, and I just.
So it will be interesting to see if they can maintain a little bit of this goodwill, or if they do get into a space where there is more negativity. Yeah,
More
rage.
negativity.
Yeah, Magic.
There we
Magic's
go, man.
great.
Thank you. That's all I wanted to hear. I
Yeah.
appreciate you going in depth about that. I don't know as much about Magic as I
Yeah.
should, and I always like learning more, and you seem to know
You are our Magic
so
expert.
much.
Our
Yeah, you are
magic-
definitely.
Oh, our magic wizard.
So thanks for spending some time with me trying to figure
You're
some
our
things out.
planeswalker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh,
I
yeah.
wish. Oh
You
my
could
gosh.
totally be a planeswalker.
Chandra is my spirit animal.
Okay, you know, if you get one of those, then super. I don't. Derek, just tell me all the Warhammer stuff.
Tell us
just
about the
tell
ladies.
us all the Warhammer
Yeah.
stuff.
All right, we're going to start with the ladies. We're going to end with the ladies.
We'll end with the ladies.
End
End with the
okay.
ladies.
Always end with the ladies.
So there was a big Warhammer event, the Nova Open this weekend. So Games Workshop, who I called James Workshop during our
James
briefing.
Yeah.
he's the CEO, president, and founder.
Yeah,
of
just
Games
this
Workshop.
guy.
Good old James Workshop is
James
just too good not to
garage.
share. But
Welcome to Jimmy Workshop's Workshop Corner.
James Workshop has announced that they're releasing a whole bunch of new stuff. So some of the kind of quicker notes is that there's a new army for Age of Sigmar, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers.
They've been putting out a lot of new stuff for
They
Sigmar
look
the last few
so
days.
They have.
cool, by the way.
Yeah, well, so
Bone
they're kind of like I would kind of
got,
imagine
like,
like
farms.
imagine like xenomorphs, but
Yeah.
necromancers. Like if you play Destiny, they're very hive-like, like kind of like giant insect necromancer animated skeleton corpse dudes. And they've got these big guys that have like 4 arms and
Simple.
like swords and
What
stuff.
time is it?
and-
11:55. Okay, good. It's been almost an hour. You know, Riffs have those.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Done.
Am I?
Do we
You
have
have
you on a
quota.
budget now? You can only use it
I'm
so
trying.
often?
I'm trying to keep it down to like 1 or 2 an hour.
So there's the Ossiarch Bone Reapers. That's a big thing. The 40K news is a couple things. First, there is a planned like huge campaign storyline event called Psychic Awakening. They haven't released a whole lot of details, but other than this is going to be the biggest shakeup to the lore and storyline that we have ever done.
I want to know what a psychic awakening looks like. Like, does just
Go watch Dune.
okay? No, I've seen that. I want to see it on a Warhammer scale. Where there's like, how many factions are there now?
Like 28. something like that.
28 factions, all fighting for.
Yeah.
Psychic power or something.
But maybe it will be. Remember, we said that they couldn't have happiness or joy.
It's
in their
not
universe?
gonna be
There's
that.
not gonna be
Maybe
happiness.
they'll
There's not
have an
gonna be
that.
awakening of like,
No.
oh, there's goodness in
No.
the universe.
Like all of a sudden they
And
discover
happiness.
love.
Love. Yeah.
No,
Why
this
is-
is. I'm gonna spoiler.
Slash with,
Spoiler.
Like flower petals.
Spoiler. It is definitely not going to be all the factions go to therapy.
Everybody gains.
not-
Everybody
That's what they
gains
need.
the empathy
That's
power.
what
It
and
is
they
not
stop
the
fighting.
psychological awakening of therapy.
No.
It is the psychic
Psychic.
awakening.
Okay, it's so close.
So
These
anyway,
death knights like I've been working
I
through
mean,
my
if
mom
that was
issues
the
a lot
see?
only
lately.
way for that to be is like all of them go psychic and they fry their brains so they're like in a perpetual state of happiness, but they're actually just dying.
the really ironic thing is that so much of the problems in 40K are because of daddy issues.
Yeah.
So like if they
yeah.
actually, if just the Emperor and the Primarchs went to therapy,
Oh,
so many
yeah.
things would have worked out much better.
I feel like the Emperor doesn't see me, you know? Like he doesn't see me.
You joke, but like at least
That
3
is-
Primarchs
that is.
turned to chaos and started a
Because-
10,000-year war
Because
because of that.
Yes.
Like, see me, senpai, recognize me. No? Fine, I'm burning the galaxy down. Anyway,
F you, universe.
so Psychic Awakening is
acknowledge
going
my
to be the
feelings.
storyline that kind of sweeps the whole galaxy. All factions are getting new rules.
Yeah, none of the things we just said at all.
Nope.
Nope.
Lots of people are hoping that this is going to be a chance for them to kind of rebalance some factions that kind of got screwed when their codexes came out early, things like that.
I'm waiting for a cough name of a faction. From
Grey
Warhammer
Knights,
Legends.
definitely Grey Knights.
Grey Knights.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
There we go. Somebody did it. It's one of me.
So that's a big thing. It's going to be like a storyline unfolding over the next year or so, probably. Haven't a lot of details, but really exciting. The other, we're going to go to down news, is that they've also announced this Warhammer Legends thing, where units that were in the index when 8th edition first came out, which is kind of like a very quick and dirty, here's rules for everything that ever came out.
Yeah.
If it's in the index, and it's not in a codex now, and it hasn't been released, and it's not currently released, they've basically said, we're going to give you the points, but we're not going to continue to balance them. We're not going to continue to support them. They're not official for tournaments anymore. You need to, like, official tournaments need to use like relatively current stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of people who are angry
Ragey.
that like the stuff they loved from way back when is no longer supported. But there's still a lot of options. Like to me, it's kind of like Magic cards, old Magic cards. You can still play them, but they go out of the current cycle.
Yeah.
Presumably, like that's same kind of idea here.
Are there?
What's it cost for a Magic card?
Depends.
Generally.
Depends.
Depends.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're saying that the armies are more expensive.
In general, yeah, you buy a pack of armies, you're paying a lot more for it. Of
Yeah.
course, you're going to
Yeah,
want a little
and
bit
then
more
plus
staying
you
power
gotta
out of it.
buy the paints too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
but like I
have
mean, like
to-
the staying power is like these
you had to
models
paint
are
your
like
own Magic cards, I bet
15,
they're-
20 years old. It's not like Magic cards that cycle out after
Yeah.
like 2 years.
Yeah.
This is like these models haven't been in production. You have to make it yourself because you can't go buy it.
Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, at some point, you can't expect everything to be supported indefinitely. But I'm also like...
Have you met Warhammer players?
I mean, that is the thing. Is like, I've come in with 8th edition from different games, so clearly I have different expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's fair for the health. And this is, again, what we're talking about, the health of the game. For the balance of it, things change. Like, they change things mechanically, and you have to keep updating. But, of course, if you love, like, oh, this is my favorite, and I love this, and I play this way, now I can't anymore, like, that sucks. So it's tough.
So, on better news, however...
Oh, good. We
Yes.
went to up news from down news. That's
I
the way to
want
do it.
I want to give you an
It's a roller
It's an
coaster.
emotional
Yeah.
roller coaster. Is what it is.
So, Sisters of Battle.
Oh,
Battle ladies.
Yes,
What were we talking
battle.
about with the Riot Quest thing? The war ladies are my favorites.
Oh, yes, murder ladies.
Murder ladies, yes.
Yep, so
They're
this is-
definitely murder
This
ladies.
is a whole armor of murder ladies for you.
Yes.
That's
so,
basically my search bar on Tinder.
So Sisters of Battle, they've been kind of teasing this. They've been showing redesigns. This is the first time that they're going to get a full suite of plastic Sisters of Battle because they've been metal and expensive.
And they've been
Yeah.
metal as
Metal and
Yep. So now they're coming out. They said sometime this year, and now we have a date that in November there's going to be like a army box. It's going to have I think 25 models plus a special edition codex, releasing in November. So now we have something specific to look forward to.
Yeah.
And they released a bunch of shots of the Sisters of Battle, and they're
Oh,
all
yeah,
they're
I
all
look awesome.
Yeah,
They
they're
look
all
so
women in
good.
power armor, so you
Yeah.
don't have to worry about like midriffs and butt cleavage or anything like that.
I thought it was
No.
going to be all boobies. I
There-
really did.
there is some.
I heard battle nuns, and I'm like, oh, Warhammer, what are you going to do?
There is
oh, no,
there's
that's
some,
fine.
There's some boob plate, but
Man,
I mean, at least they're wearing.
I have no
Fine.
problem with boob plate.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's just when it's battle
it's
bikini
just the window
with
of
like
the-
with like cross pasties and like the nun habit. I'm like, okay, come on. Guys.
You can buy models like that on other websites. though.
I know.
Yeah, or Kickstarter.
That's
remember?
why
Kickstarter,
that's
yeah.
why I worried.
Yeah.
No.
But they're cool, and they're so we were talking about the faces, and how they're kind of masculine and kind of rugged, but they look to me they look older too.
Yeah.
You know,
Yep.
so also it's not like teeny bopper nuns.
Yep.
You know, it's
Yep.
like weathered.
There's definitely like the classic like 40, 50-year-old like battle-hardened lady, like Madam Murder, let's say,
Madam,
as opposed to Lady
Madam
Murder.
Yeah.
Murder.
Ah, because you don't want to say old maid murder.
Nope.
Yeah, that's
Because
not
she'll
Madam
kill you.
Murder. Actually, that sounds like a really good title, Madam Murder.
Madam Murder.
I think we're naming your army right now.
Yeah.
You have like Murder Lady, Madam Murder.
Madam Murder. Yes. See, this is the kind of thing
Miss
that
Murderville.
Miss Murder.
I want
Are we
to.
naming pop songs or?
We are now.
You see, my issue with this though is because I want to mix them together. I want to have my little breakdancing slashy boys with the Tyranids.
I was about to say she means Tyranids. Just to translate, Tyranids.
The breakdancing slashy boy.
Because I
It's
glued
Tyranids.
mine all like doing, because on the box they're just like, they're just like this. I'm like, but you can make their arms go anyway, so they're all like really cool dynamic poses. So I want them with my.
Not the way people actually
Murder
stand.
We can just play open. We can play open play. That might not be legal for a tournament for your breakdancing murder boys
Yeah.
and your Madam Murder to
Madam
join
Murder,
forces,
yep.
but yeah, in an open game we can do that. How about that?
And I'm just gonna bring my My Little Ponies along to fight you guys.
Sure.
Excellent. I
It'll
love
work.
it.
It'll work.
Friendship's magic. We can handle this.
Yeah.
You'll be on my team, right?
Yes.
Okay.
So
We'll find
come
it.
November, murder nuns everywhere.
Murder nuns everywhere.
Murder, no.
Oh, hail the murder nuns.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Death of the
That sounds
false
like a-
emperor, I think is what you mean.
Yeah, death the false.
Death to the
oh,
false emperor. There we go. Now I'm finally on board. Well, that is happy news.
Well,
Nothing
yeah.
could possibly bring us down from that happy news.
I have very sad news.
Oh.
I'm sorry. So last week you heard that we did a Humble Bundle for Rick Loomis. And unfortunately, August 23rd, right after we talked about it, he passed away due to complications with the cancer. So if you guys don't know who Rick Loomis is, who Rick Loomis is, he basically, if you're really into the old play-by-mail, Buffalo, what is it called?
Flying Buffalo?
Flying
Flying
Buffalo,
Buffalo,
yeah.
founded Flying Buffalo, and co-founded the game manufacturers for that. So, like a lot of this, like for a lot of people recently, they're not like, people who are just getting into gaming probably won't recognize, but he was one of like those people who were very influential to a lot of,
especially in the very beginning. Like,
very beginning.
Especially to a lot of like current game designers.
Yes.
Like, he was,
Yep, he did a lot of classic stuff. Gamma. He was
Gamma.
president or chairman of Gamma many times, I believe.
Many times.
He did a lot of the fighting books.
Yes.
That were like it's a thing that you just don't really see a whole lot of now, but it was a
No.
totally different way to have a fighting game of, you had a book and you would choose your stance and you would flip to that page and it would tell you how it would relate to somebody else's page. It's like as a game designer, you should check that out. It's really weird.
That sounds really
He
cool.
also did the RPG Trolls or Tunnels and Trolls. That one was for the longest time there was D&D and then there was Tunnels and Trolls, and it's just D&D has flourished, but the Tunnels and Trolls was more about that play by mail kind of.
Play by mail, play with one other person. It was
So
Nuclear War was also another big Flying Buffalo game.
and that's definitely his most banned game.
yeah.
There.
But yeah, no, it's just very interesting because you see a lot of people that he helped in terms of accomplishments wise, for most notably Ken St. Andre, who's famous for tabletop RPG designers. Also Liz Danforth, illustrator, who works for WotC as well, and they all branched off from this particular
So his passing, I think, inspired a lot of people to write retrospectives or their feelings or how his presence in the industry influenced them, helped them get in or whatever. So with his passing, I think this is an opportunity for folks to go buy the bundle of holding to go help with the bills.
Yeah, because that is still going on, and that money can still be used. There's going to be bills to pay. Funerals are not cheap, and medical bills don't go away just because you pass.
But it's also another way for people to engage with the history of the industry in general, because you get to see multiple different perspectives on the impact that this one person had.
Yes, and he boasted about being the first person to actually buy a computer just for gaming. So they can haha, now we don't have to calculate all of these things. We can just plug it into the computer. It's amazing.
I
The
believe
computer
it.
these days.
Computers.
They're amazing, and they fit in a small room.
But yeah, so this is stuff that definitely came out from the 70s. So if you started gaming during that time, you would probably know a lot about.
A lot of people started gaming during that time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People who were alive then, anyway.
So take a moment.
Yeah.
So a moment of silence for Rick Loomis, everyone. There it was.
Yeah. Sorry to end it on a sad note.
What?
End it.
No.
We're just starting.
We are just warming up,
Just
people.
starting.
That is very. I mean, it's sad, but there's got to be good news in here somewhere, right? Is it-
Yeah.
Starfinder.
Ah.
Hey, come on! We're talking about the third most popular role-playing game.
Wasn't it 2? I thought it was number 2.
Was it 2?
Starfinder, yeah.
Yeah, Starfinder
during
is number
last quarter,
2.
number
The second most popular role-playing game in the world right now is coming out with one of its first books since the initial release. That first year, they came out with a bunch of stuff. This second year, we have not seen much in the way of Starfinder.
Yep.
They're getting a brand new book, and it's a player options guide, which is awesome for people who play Starfinder. It's going to come with 3 new core classes.
I think one's like the biohacker or something like that.
That sounds amazing.
So I'm in for
I
that.
want
Yeah, I
that.
think that's something called a biohacker. I
yeah.
will play that,
Yep.
or I will cut one in half with my Solarian.
I'll cross off biohacker right in Zimus, and then I'll.
For those of you not familiar with Starfinder, Starfinder is a sci-fi role-playing game based on the Pathfinder system.
Pathfinder First Edition.
Pathfinder First
First
Edition
edition.
system, and they've taken a lot of those things from Starfinder, which came after First Edition, and actually put those into Second Edition. So it's kind of it's the way Alternity was for D&D back in the TSR days, where it kind of bridged the gap. You kind of saw what Third Edition was going to look like a little bit from the way that this game looked like.
And Starfinder is 100% Pathfinder in space.
Oh,
Like,
yeah.
It's not, just to be clear,
It
it's
is-
not a new setting, it's not a whole new thing. It is
Pathfinder
100%
in
Pathfinder in
space.
space.
It's Pathfinder.
Pathfinder in space in the future. You know, it's not Pathfinder now in space.
Because you would be dead if you're
Have
just
you-
in space.
That's right. Emma.
We should introduce you to Spelljammer.
Spelljammer?
Yep.
Oh, well,
Miniature giant space hamsters and space hippos and
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And spaceships
was
that
great.
actually had decks that you could stand on the outside of, and
Yeah.
had the big wheels you could turn. Good
sounds
times.
great.
It's
Yeah.
very
That's
I
how
want a
space
space
works.
good stuff.
hamster.
Starfinder is not like that in any way. It's got a much more much more
Star Warsy.
much more Star Warsy feel to it. It's there for big action, big set pieces. It's great. The classes all mirror things that you're used to seeing, but present them in a new way that you can interpret however you want to make your character more uniquely yours. It's of course about character customization, as all Pathfinder games are, and this is going to add further to that customization. So we are excited to hear about it. Thank you, Starfinder, for putting out something new. I will be buying all of your stuff,
All the stuff.
all of the things.
All the
Take my money.
things and stuff.
All right. We are on to the bundles.
The bundles.
All right,
me.
bundle guy, tell me about. Oh, that's me again.
Yes.
All right.
Tell us about all the bundles. Are they?
Yeah.
I'm only
Bundle
telling you.
us.
I'm really This is what I'm. There's a Goodman Games bundle. If you're not going to go out and just buy the Rick Loomis bundle, which you should do anyway, the Goodman Games bundle is it's all Goodman Game stuff. It's basically they've become a very big OSR company after becoming an open gaming license.
Well,
Supplement provider for the first.
So they have Dungeon
15
Crawl
years of their
Classics and
existence.
Mutant Crawl Classics, and
right,
if you
right,
want
right.
like that really old school feel,
Yeah.
like funnel
They
and stuff
are
like that.
the pioneers a lot of that OSR movement in a lot of ways because of the Dungeon Crawl Classics.
Also, they like alphabets. They
Yep.
like
Well,
letters.
so this bundle is not DCC or Mutant Crawl Classics.
right,
Like
yeah.
this is system agnostic stuff.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think we covered one of these, not one of these ones, but we covered something in this kind of series
Yes.
as a Kickstarter a while ago. I think it was
We
like
did.
Lovecraft or Mythos
Cthulhu
alphabet, something like that. Cthulhu
Yeah,
alphabet.
Cthulhu.
Yeah.
One of those things. And it
Yes.
was just like, it was an alphabet book, and each letter was like, here's a bunch of stuff
For
for
that.
that letter that just inspires you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe there are rules, but it's probably just like charts or tables to roll on or details to inspire you.
Yeah.
Most
So
of
there's a
these are
bunch
going to be
those.
rules agnostic, which means they're not going to fit in any particular system. They are ideas for your campaigns
So-
in any system.
Yeah. So basically, if
They're
you're
games
like,
without rules and novels without stories.
yeah, you just need to like if you're like going ahead and they're like so a lot of people don't like being railroaded when you're playing a game. So if you suddenly go, oh no, I didn't plan for this room. Let me look up something really quick. I'm gonna plop this into
in
this.
the Z's.
I'm a plop.
Yep, with unruly players, one of the best tools a GM can have is, let's take a bio break while I figure out what the hell's happening here.
Yeah.
Oh, I just
Unruly
use a squirt
players.
gun. It's like, get off the table. Get away from the table.
But yeah, no, this is definitely if you want to pick it up just for just being able to have that like index.
Yeah. Just content, more fire hose.
I always like tables. I'm a big fan of them. Like if you're really in a pinch, you can just roll on a table and there it is.
Yeah.
Well, here's a bundle for you.
This is the bundle for me. I'm not going to buy it.
There. It's the bundle
I really
for
like tables, but
someone.
not those tables.
Not those tables. You
Yeah.
can keep those tables. I have lots of tables. I use my tables.
many
My tables are good. But if you need new tables, check out this bundle.
Yeah.
Cool.
And that was bundles.
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 So Kickstarters are happening now.
Kickstarter.
Yep, it's your turn.
Let's
Yes.
talk about the Kickstarters. Kickstarter Queen.
First up on our list is on downtime and domains. You will not be able to spell that from the way I have pronounced it.
Demesnes.
Demesnes.
If you are looking it up on Kickstarter, which you should, because
Yeah.
it's really cool. I actually went back, because when I first looked at this, thinking about different pieces of content, I'm like, that's really cool. Having stuff for Dungeons & Dragons or for any role-playing game, where it's just, what happens when we're not fighting stuff? When we're not adventuring, we're not fighting, we're not charming the neighborhood, we're not trying to like convince the local guards
Not charming
that
the neighborhood. That's my favorite one.
charming the neighborhood, trying to convince the guards that our paladin is Sir Robinson is really cool and we should get to do whatever we want. When you're not doing any of that stuff, what are you doing? You know, maybe
Sir Robinson, his mom and I used to have a thing.
maybe you're kicking back with some drinks. Maybe you're knitting, right? Maybe you're going and like forging those magical
This
items.
is a real thrilling adventure you're laying
Yeah.
out here.
So it maybe.
So when we
it
do our
doesn't
group
have to
game,
be
she's not
all-
allowed to GM first time, right?
No.
It doesn't
talked
have to
about
be all
that?
battle. This is okay. I'm working on games that have all of these fun things that are not
Laundry
stabbing
mechanics. How can you
zombies.
fold the most proper knot?
As you leave the mystical
Drinking,
petting zoo of joy.
No, so you realize what's going to
baking.
happen is like she's going to take all of this teasing and go back, and she's going to come back with a
The
fucking
most
amazing
deadly
game
adventure
Yeah.
ever.
that is
yeah.
about folding and knitting and petting animals, and she's going to be like, "I told you."
I'm working on a game right now. Okay,
About
don't
petting
tell
and-
me.
About folding animals?
No.
Oh, God.
Folding
Oh, wait.
clothes. I guess.
And I'm just like IKEA flat pack animals. Anyway,
I can
Sorry.
sell the crap
that is
out
not
of
what this
those.
Kickstarter is about.
Wow. Anyway, So I read a little bit more into it and read through the Xanathar's guide, digging more into the downtime. And it's probably a lot of people know, for those of you who don't know, there's actually a mechanic about how I got an hour, I'm gonna knit, but over weeks or months, you can do really cool things like forging a magical weapon, buying things, crime. You can just go out and loot
covering
things.
the kind of stuff that would happen in a role-playing game,
Yeah.
would happen in a story or a movie or a novel or whatever,
Right.
but that you don't need to role-play the individual scenes of because they're
Yes.
not super thrilling. You just kind of need to know what happened.
So
But that doesn't always make them unimportant.
Correct.
They get glossed over way too much.
Yeah.
I happen to love that optional rule in the
Yeah.
Xanathar's Guide for that very reason. Savage Worlds also does a thing called an interlude where you pull a card
Yeah.
and you have to tell a story based on the card. It's
And these can
I
feed
love that
back
stuff.
into the adventure as well. Like when they're talking about having rivals, like while you're doing this stuff, there's people in other places plotting and doing their own things. Like you'll get a magical weapon, you might start get in a fight with someone and then come back into the day-to-day role-playing action. So there's a lot of cool stuff that can be more sandboxy and help, so sometimes the GM will have an adventure. It's just like, well, I don't know what happens next. We've been doing this for a year or whatever.
Yeah, and if you're on a campaign that's on rails, those are really important moments that give you a lot of character freedom that you don't normally get in those very on the rails type adventures.
So this is a Kickstarter that provides the group, not just the GM, I think, but the group, because there's also players need to know what their options are.
Right. Yeah.
They provide your group with ideas of what to do in these situations. More options than what was just in Xanathar's.
Yeah, absolutely. So you should check it out. It's got 7 hours left, so
Oh.
don't dawdle on that one.
Downtime and domain.
Also, you can relax. You can go on vacation, and you can't mess that up.
No,
Most of these,
just to be clear, you as a human can't relax right now. You need to go back to this Kickstarter.
Yes.
Your character could then go
sorry,
relax.
yeah. One of the downtimes.
If your character ever
is
wants a
just-
vacation, you have 7 hours to accomplish that today.
Otherwise, they lose all their accrued vacation time.
You relax. You take a week. It costs more if you're. Oh no, wait, that's carousing. Carousing is a separate one. But,
Oh yeah, no, carousing always costs a little bit more.
With the excitement you
But
have for this,
worth
I
it.
feel we need to play Blades in the Dark.
Yes, I want to play
Because
everyone.
Blades in the Dark downtime activities are a core component of the game.
Yes.
Where you build up stress, and then you have to go indulge in your vices to release that stress.
That is amazing. I wanna
And then
do that.
those usually end up causing you more. Anyway.
Yeah. Anyways, on to the next
It's a
one.
cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
Yep. So the next Kickstarter is Hexplore It, the Sands of Shurax, and apparently this is the third in the series.
Board game. It sounds like a Kickstarter.
It is. Well, let's get there for a moment first. So there's a bunch of tiles. You lay out the tiles.
Yes.
You have a character that you have a class and a race for, and you explore those tiles, engaging in cooperative combat against monsters. What does that sound like?
That sounds like role playing.
Kickstarter board game. is
Oh,
what we go
Kickstarter
for.
board games. Yeah.
KBG.
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 I feel like we need a big stamp to just hit the screen.
Yeah, we
Is
need an
this a
overlay.
true Kickstarter board game? If so, why or why not?
Scientists are still debating
Debate.
as to whether it can be properly categorized as a Kickstarter board game because it only has 3 miniatures.
Does it come?
You're too good at
does,
this.
do the stretch goals include more miniatures?
No, but they do include more
Is the-
content and cards and
Are
adventures.
the tiles of the board hand carved or hand painted?
They're not. It is a borderline, perhaps a proto Kickstarter board game.
What is the price point on said board game?
Go to Kickstarter and find out.
Yeah.
Or you could go to Kickstarter and find out right now.
The other really thing that I thought was neat about this is absolutely themed off of a Dark Sun Al-Qadim kind of thing.
Dark Sun-esque.
Almost
Dark Sunnian.
Defilist. Yeah, one of the classes is Defilist, not Defiler. Defilist.
Defilist.
Totally different.
Or maybe they pronounced it Defilist.
Yep.
If they
Yeah.
do, they're wrong.
But this is
we don't judge.
This is definitely in the category of I want to play a board game that's very much like a role-playing game. I want to
Yeah.
explore some stuff. I want to do it in a deserty kind of themed setting.
Honestly, these are the kind of board games that I like because they're more like role-playing
Right,
games,
yeah,
which
yeah.
I love.
So this one has 2 days left.
Cool.
Go find out. Yeah, go look at it right now.
2 days.
With your eyeballs.
Is it a Kickstarter board game? We'd love to hear in the
Yeah,
comments.
post. Critique
about
us.
it. Let's-
Critique our categorization.
So the next Kickstarter we have to go over has 3 days left.
Okay.
And this is Honesty Stone. And this is the latest design from a guy that I've seen pop up on Kickstarter a lot. He's
Yeah.
a very earnest Japanese designer who's done a number of very simple, elegant, lightly themed, or even just fully abstract games. He likes to design ceramic boards
Yeah.
with ceramic pieces. And this is his attempt at a bluffing deduction game. Where you take some tiles, you put 3 tiles in front of you, you're trying to guess what, like I'll have 3 tiles of like 3 colors in front of me hidden.
Yeah.
You'll have 3 tiles. I'm trying to be like, hey, one of your tiles is blue. And then you'll be like, no. And I'll be like, no, you're lying. Like you're trying to figure that out because you have a couple powers to like peek at the tiles or trade tiles or things like that.
Peeking at the tiles thing would probably work really well for knowing what the other person is.
Just knowing, just peeking.
But it's a good mechanic to have if you really want to know what's in the other person's hand.
Lying is, one of the key things, and you like apparently have an honesty stone, and you can spend the honesty stone to accuse someone that they're lying. If you're right, you keep it, and you can accuse somebody else. If you're wrong, they get it. So there's like a neat little element there. When you're
then the dirty thief can steal my honesty stone?
Yep. But when you're eliminated, you can still operate as like a zombie character. Like there's some neat stuff there. Like, but like it's just he makes very, very simple, like I hesitate to say tactile, but like very ceramic, very elegantly looking and designed game.
Yeah, it's tactile. It's interesting. It's weird. There's like not a lot of other stuff out there, and I think especially like different
a
cultural.
Japanese game that's weird.
But not in not in like the stereotypical like, oh, Japan's so weird way. It's like just this guy has this very distinct style.
Not panties in a vending machine.
Oh God, no, the fancy.
And I think the cultural exchange, like sometimes a lot of the Kickstarters we feature are from Europe or from the US, and having some of those games that are from other countries have different design perspectives and can come up with stuff like, wow, that's different.
Yeah, on that note about abstract, I actually have been noticing a lot of games in Japan, like not just board games, but also like video games that have started going more of that abstract. Like they don't tell you, like they're games that they don't really tell you how to play it, and you just play it, and there's like just noises happening at you.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Is that a nightmare you had?
No.
it's
I actually demoed a game that was like, you got to make friends with these random objects with faces.
Okay, yeah.
Wait,
all right, that sounds Japanese.
Friends, things with faces.
Emma's way into this.
Yeah, and then you're making friends with them.
You're making friends, but you have to like get
with
them,
the faces or the things?
You gotta
The
like
things.
somehow
with the
hold
faces.
on to them, and like you're having to hold on to all of your friends.
Are they on a
Is this a
frying
video
pan?
game or a
Yeah,
board
this is
game?
a video game. This is a video game.
Okay,
that's
like I'm
friendship.
picturing this thing with
Do you
all this
remember what
props
it's
with little
called?
googly eyes, and you're like
No,
holding it
it's
like,
from
okay,
the
I've got my
same-
friends
no,
here.
I
What
don't
do I
remember
do?
what it's called, but you just like explode your friends at a certain point.
That sounds pretty Japanese.
Yeah, I mean, I played
slightly more
I played
United
Katamari
Statesian.
Damacy. None of that sounds off base.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
weird.
it is actually from the guy. He's one of the designers from Katamari Damacy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
If anyone can find this, research Google Flu.
I can't remember
Otherwise,
what it's
we will
called.
find
I really
out.
feel like we all need to play
gonna-
Stretch Me Pull You. Have you played that? It's it's that same design. Yeah, we should play that.
Okay, that's a board game thing,
Nope.
and not like
No, it's a video game.
not like a weird team building
It's a
exercise.
weird video game. So, for Kickstarters, Odyssey Stone has 3 days left.
3 days.
So the next one has 4 days left. This is Mokuru card game, and this is from France, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
And this is two kind of toy and game designers made this really tactile dexterity game that you have to kind of see the video.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
really do recommend people go there because like
I feel like it's in the same vein of like that cup stacking game or the like Bop It.
Oh.
It's got a very
It's
toy
a manual
aspect to it.
dexterity
I feel
like
it's like table juggling is
Sure.
how
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And it's something that you look and you think, oh, that goes to tunk to tunk.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's
So like the game is you pull a card and then you have like this special stick that balances vertically
Yes.
and seems to have a weight that will move inside to make it move a little strangely. And you flip the card and you have to do the trick on the card to kind of advance towards victory. And it seems like it's going to be a very silly game, very good for kids or something like that. But it sounds dumb until you see the stick in action.
Yeah,
basically. 'Cause
I want
it
to
feels
touch
to
it.
me-
move is weird.
Yeah.
it feels to me like one of those games or novelty type puzzles where you have an expert show you and he can do all the tricks
Oh, yeah.
and you're like,
Yeah,
oh,
that's
that looks
fair, yeah.
super easy. I'll buy that. Like when you see somebody gravity juggling for the first time,
Yeah.
they're
Oh,
like,
yeah,
oh yeah, where's the string? That looks pretty neat. I think anybody
Do you
can do
believe
that.
in the babe?
And then
The
you're like,
babe
the
has
boom.
power. The babe has the
I think
power.
it's
Yeah,
one of
you're
those,
like,
you know,
I
like
can't
you're gonna
see
be
the
good
thing.
at it or you're gonna be just awful at it.
And then you're gonna just throw it at the wall.
And then it'll bounce off and land in the wrong direction. And you'll be like, okay, I guess I win that round.
Yep. So, it's weird. It's different.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Check it out.
Little, yellow,
But
different.
Speaking about stuff that is weird, hey, guess what? Guess what? This Kickstarter has 5 days left, and it's Fiasco cinematic game.
So hopefully everybody has played Fiasco.
Oh, yeah,
If they haven't,
Yes.
please
I have
do so.
not.
I recommend it.
Yeah.
I
play
back
Fiasco.
this.
I've got to do it too. I haven't
Fiasco
done it
is
yet.
a very, almost like you could say, a very role-playing game where it's mostly you can be
Super
GM.
accessible.
Yeah, super
G-
accessible.
GM-less.
GM-less, and then you have like different like charts. Like, okay, so the old version has dice charts. Like, hey, I want to go ahead and play like a game in the Wild West, and this is like the story plots that we're gonna have.
Pull up the Wild West chart. And
Yeah,
Yep.
and then
or,
you roll and
Suburban Moms with Dark Secrets in the 1950s.
yes.
That's the one I want to play. I've gone over this.
Yeah, and so what you do is
perfect
like you
green bean
establish
casserole.
relationships
Yeah.
in the game, and then you resolve how it like.
Well, so the game is really, really neat. It's very simple. It's very accessible.
Yes.
There's no character stats. You don't build a character with rules. You just basically end up, you have a name, you've got a relationship with other people at the table,
Yes.
and you have a need that drives your
Yeah,
character.
more of a story.
It is very much a storytelling
It's
game.
very
So the way that it works is on your turn, at least the old edition, they might tweak this for the new one. The old edition, you'd roll a bunch of dice. That's how you'd build the relationships.
Yes.
And then what you would do is, on your turn, you would decide, do I want to set up the scene that my character is in?
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the table decides how it resolves.
Yes.
Or do I want the table to tell me what situation my character's in, and then I decide how my character resolves it? And you just end up really getting sucked into just the story, and you end up making terrible decisions with these characters.
Yes.
Because you want to fulfill their needs. That kind of fits into the theme. It's really, really good. This new edition is trading the dice and the charts for decks of cards, where they want to try to really kind of narrow down and focus things so that every option is really interesting and compelling and isn't repeated.
But the first edition is amazing and
yes.
award-winning.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the second edition promises to be just as good.
This
So-
is good. Yeah, I actually got to demo it at Gen Con.
Nice.
And it was very interesting. So it's a little bit easier. You have your like name cards.
You got to demo this specific version
Yes,
of it.
I have. So you get your name cards. You get like also like relationships. You just like randomly pull it out from a deck. So for our version, I had so the other player, we ended up being connected because of cults. We were both
Yeah.
part of the same cult.
As you do.
Yeah, as you
Blood,
do.
blood,
But it was a cult that also owned a bodybuilder. Like it was very random. Like
As you do.
as you do. And so we ended
Yeah.
up resolving it. I had the third player there was like ex-husband or like a husband of mine who then I plotted to kill because he didn't accept my cult.
Oh, yeah.
But then I ended up
Makes
killing
sense.
myself.
Continuing as you do,
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, I
So-
mean, if you end up in a cult, there's a good, like at least a 50-50 shot you're going to end up killing yourself by the end of it.
So
Yeah.
we also have a video of this on our YouTube
Yes.
because they played this on stream at Gen Con.
Which is on the Kickstarter page, I
Is it?
believe.
Yes.
I think so.
I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
2 thumbs up.
Yeah.
Yeah, check it out.
But yeah.
Back it like me. I did
Yeah.
it. I dived in. I will have it.
I
and
backed it.
then-
You backed it.
Yeah.
I'm going to be backing it.
Well, then I guess you don't have to because we have 3 copies.
We have
Yeah.
some copies.
But I definitely
This
think,
worked out for me really
Yeah,
well. today.
I think Fiasco was one of those games we should also play on stream.
Oh, that
yeah,
one. is
that
gonna
would be fun.
That would be really
That would be
great.
awesome. Yeah.
But yeah, just hear it from me. If you like storytelling aspects of games and you kind of want it a little bit board gamified, simpler, get this card packet. It's not that big. It's like this big of a box with a good decent amount of cards, and then later on you'll be able to expand to more genres.
Yep.
So what's our next Kickstarter? You're excited about this one too, I think.
Yes, the other. Yes, this one is called. This has 5 days left. Wolves of Merca. No.
Mercia.
No, I like that.
Mercia.
Yeah.
Nope.
Mercia.
Merca.
Definitely, because I saw that a couple times and I'm like, definitely, please don't be that.
I pronounced it wrong, but that's okay. You ever play you ever play the werewolf games?
Are you a werewolf?
Are you a werewolf?
Are you
Well, this is kind of like the ultimate Are You a Werewolf?
There is.
But not
The
Ultimate
it's like the
Werewolf, which is
Legacy
a game.
edition
But
where you
it
tear
is-
up the players halfway through.
Yeah,
Terrible
so
players.
so it's more of those like social deduction games, but
Mm-hmm.
the twist to this is that you have an option. Like, for example, if you've ever played these games, if you're like the first person to die off, you're just kind of like, well, okay, I did that for 10 minutes. Now I'll see you guys in like an
And then
hour.
you go sulk in the bathroom, and there's a whole drama thing,
Yeah,
and friendships
then
get ruined.
all that.
Did
kind
this
of
happen to you?
The college people got very very particular in the games. They cared a lot about
So you
that.
were at college parties playing a werewolf?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I just learned a whole lot.
But yeah, so they have this optional thing that are called phantoms, and this one is like, hey, if you die, you can still try to get, like, you can't really talk, but you can still do something as a phantom. And a lot of these characters also, they added new like mechanics to it, so it's not just like, oh, we have to find who's killing all of the people. There's also another, like, for example, they have an anarchist that's trying to burn down the whole village.
Well, I think that's the other really big difference from Are You a Werewolf?
Yes.
Is that it doesn't seem like it's just the villagers versus the werewolves.
No.
Yeah.
Every player
Has their
should
own.
have their own different winning condition, victory condition.
Yes.
So you might have teams, but you don't know what those teams are, or it sounds like there's kind of a little more chaos and alliances are a little more tenuous.
Yes, it's a lot. There's actually, no, not a little bit. It is a lot of chaos, because there's even one where there's somebody that can just take your victory condition and just trade it with somebody else. So that's also a thing. So you can be planning to do this, like, oh, I'm so close to winning.
So,
and then
so have you been looking for a different kind of social deduction game? You love Are You a Werewolf? You want maybe a more chaotic spin on it? Then it sounds like this is up your alley.
Yeah, this is definitely up your alley if you're into those kind of.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, so let's get through the last two Kickstarters.
Yes.
And real quick.
Yeah.
So one of them, very simple, is Division Throne Room. Has 6 days left. It seems like, again, a very simple game. You kind of lay out a 3x3 grid of cards that all have like chess piece associations on them. And then you're rolling dice and you're trying to move those pieces to match random patterns that you've drawn of where you want chess pieces on the board, so that you can get through, like, your patterns before your opponent can get through theirs. It struck me, I thought it was worth noting because it seemed very simple, very straightforward, and it uses components that everybody's aware of, whether or not they're a gamer, to do a kind of gamery game. So, I don't think this is going to be anybody's like diehard, like super strategic love, but it does take things that your parents or your non-gamer friends are going to be familiar with, and gives them a taste of some tactics, which is intriguing to me.
Yeah. Cool.
So that has 6 days left, Division Throne Room. And then the last game is also 6 days left, is Burgle Bros 2 Casino Capers. And Burgle Bros is a great game. It's another Tim Fowers game, which I think we've talked about before.
Yep.
And this is a fully co-op game. You are a crew of criminals who have these cover stories trying to knock over, in this case, a casino. And the box...
That's a hard heist. That's a tough heist to pull off.
The box is part of the board in this case, where like you take the pieces out of the box, and then it comes with these sticks, and you like lay the tiles out here, and then you put the box on the sticks above that, and that's the second floor of the casino that you put tiles on. Because the first game had like 3 levels, so like it's a very kind of neat thing. You're moving around, exposing tiles, trying to get what you need to score and leave. But the guards or security are kind of patrolling around the area, and they have a little bit of an AI activation to them.
Do you have the one guy in your heist group that will inevitably screw everything up by shooting someone?
Just about, yes.
Because that is every heist movie.
Do you have the
Every
person
heist.
who's very acrobatic and can squeeze into small spaces?
Yeah, you can.
Do you have
like,
the tech person?
That's most heist movies.
Oh, we gotta hack faster.
Those are all the different roles that you can pick to take. So you can take all the acrobatic hackers who just do this with whatever they're looking at,
Yeah,
whether this
that's
keyboard there or not.
Yeah.
I'm in.
Number code. Okay, gotta hack
So
this.
Burgle Bros, the first Burgle Bros was, the art is the classic Tim Fowers stuff. It's very classic 70s heisty kind of stuff. Really, really good stuff. It was a really great game. This is a new spin on it, a new setting, tweaked a little bit, apparently with more pressure, so you can't spend as much time carefully going through, because you're just at an active casino being observed and stuff like that. So highly recommended if you like co-op games, if you like stealth games, if you like games that have a kind of an interesting physical presence on the board, on the table. Check that one out. 6 days left.
Cool.
All right, cool. Burgle Brothers. All right, guys, that is all the time that we have this week for Tabletakes presented by Gen Con. We will see you next week. And please have a safe and happy Labor Day weekend. Play lots of games.
I'll see you at PAX.
Or you'll see some of us at PAX if you happen to be at the Penny Arcade Expo this weekend.
Yes.
I won't be attending as I don't want to deal with traffic, and I would like to stay home with my puppies.
Aw.
That's where I am this weekend. We had shots this week, so we're gonna take it
Puppy
really easy.
Arcade Expo?
Puppy
where you're gonna be?
Arcade.
Oh, that's
Is it
Yeah.
streaming? I'll watch that.
I might stream some of it.
Puppy Arcade.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. So anyway, that's it for Tabletakes. We will see you next week. My name is Christian. I'm here, of course, with Bonsai, Emma, and Derek. We'll see you next time. Have a safe weekend.